Welcome back to the official CABSAT podcast powered by Northtelecom. Joining me now is Mark Peterson, who's a senior principal, a global AV discipline leader at Shen, Milsom, and Wilke.
Yes, that's right.
Correct. Okay, I got it. Yesterday you had a spotlight session, and today you're here on the show with us. First of all, let's introduce yourself to the audience who don't know you, and introduce your organization, please.
Okay, yes. My name is Mark Peterson, and I work for Shen, Milsom, and Wilke, and we are a pure consulting firm. And what that means is that we advise our consultants that we're a client advocate. We do not have any investment in our buyback on the technology we specify. So we're neutral. And we do this technology advising consultation around the world. We have 13 offices all over the world, and not just in audiovisual, but also in IT and in security and in acoustics. So we started actually as an acoustics firm, and we've done many of the most iconic landmark hotels and buildings around the world, from Shanghai to Hong Kong to everywhere. And we're brought in because of our skills in all of these technologies. And the reason why I mentioned that is because innovation and finding what's the latest and best practices comes from reaching and across all kinds of different verticals and bringing those knowledge and awarenesses into our practice.
Great. In this day and age, how important is creating an innovative user experience, and what goes into making such an experience?
Yeah, well, I think the question would be, what does innovative mean, right?
Okay.
I think now that means to be an intelligent user experience, right? It's being smart and being aware of what the user needs and wants. And in that context, I think we need to have devices and technology that is able to be more predictive and anticipatory. People are expecting systems, whether it's an application or a room, to be smart and be aware, and to minimize the friction of what it takes to start and launch a call or walking into a space. So for example, it may be the ability to have the temperature defined by you versus me and preferences, but certainly the expectation is that it should learn. It should learn from previous settings, previous adjustments, so that you're not having to repeat those same tasks.
Okay. And how can organizations use technology to create a functional workplace? Because I know you touched base on that yesterday, the whole functional workplace. And so how can they utilize technology for that?
Okay, well, I think the biggest thing we're seeing in most workforces is the mobility of the workforce. Some knowledge experts or sales staff are coming in and out of the office, touchdown, and they're completely different use of the office space as opposed to leadership or support staff. So the technology that we're seeing most impactful is being aware of where people are and when they're going to congregate. This is particularly important in markets like the United States and in Europe, where post-pandemic, a hybrid workforce. You don't have that as much here. But in the hybrid workforce, the idea is to bring people the value of what I call collisions. So if you're working at home, or I'm working at home, or working just with your coworkers, you're only exposed to their experiences or the group thought, right? So you can be very efficient and very productive, but you may not be aware and creative. And creation comes from what I call collisions. So it's meeting and engaging with people you don't engage with every day. You see then out of the corner of your eye, somebody interacting, somebody doing something, someone saying something. You say, that I can take that little nugget and I can apply it to my work or my life. And that's what technology needs to be able to do. It needs to create opportunities to expose people to things that they don't normally see and allow them to apply those solutions. One of the ways we do that is by using work planning apps that allow me to choose my desk and choose where I'm going to be for a desk. But I think we need to go further than that, because many times that would just mean I'm going to go from my desk home, back, maybe meet with people I know, but I won't know who I don't know. And so there needs to be a curator that's saying, hey, these people are going out for coffee or there's an event going on, to bring in more opportunities to collide and meet and engage with people you don't normally work with.
Hey, so interesting. What role does AI play in the workforce? And that I hear AI in every industry.
Yes.
Like everybody's panicking about it or is embracing it completely. So what role does AI play in the workplace, and what role will it play in the future?
Yeah, well, that's that's $1 million question, right? And I think obviously we're very much at the beginning of that. With when we look at technologies, and AI as an example, just as much as smart cars, we're only able to kind of see like the fog of war, the fog of what could come. But I see there being a very big difference between how artificial intelligence is applied to an individual as opposed to a group. And examples, for example, if you're working with Microsoft or Teams or you're working on your computer, you have artificial intelligence tools like a chat tool or the wordsmithing and word productivity tools. Grammarly, right? Yes.
My best friend.
Yeah. And so that's purpose for you at your desk. And meanwhile, in a completely different equation for AI, you've got people that are running meetings that can get a summary of their notes or summary of what people said, or you may have real-time speech translation. Those technologies aren't intersecting yet. What I think the vision for me is when you can be in a group and have access to this intelligent being, right? Imagine, the question is like, if you had the smartest person in the room, what would you ask them? What question would you ask them? Right there, right at that moment, the question you ask is even more important than the answer you receive, right? So if you did that journey on your own, you're not taking the opportunity to come together. Your ability to know whether that's an accurate answer or a hallucination is one thing, but it's the iteration. So when you ask that question, having more people engaged. So what I'm saying is we need to bring the large language models and the interactive capability, the ability to speak to the most intelligent person, make that, get rid of the friction. I don't need to type it. I don't want to type it. I don't want it listening to everything I have to say. So I want to be able to have it, push or talk when I want to have it say it. I want it to say it to the group of people.
Yeah.
I want it to hear what it says, and then I want to be able to make a response. This dialogue, I believe, is what we need to go to, because from there, I can make decisions faster and better and quicker. So what we see right now is it's a productivity efficiency goal in the meeting space and a thought exercise at home. One more thing that I think is really important to keep in mind. The danger here is what I call disfluency. So when you speed up the ability to, like, let's say Grammarly, it flips the words and sentences around. You spent a lot of time last year and years before making those punctuation changes, but in the process, you got very fluent with what your intent was, because you knew that as you worked through the punctuation, which is very tedious, you were actually very much engaged with the content. Once you make it faster and get to that point, you still aren't engaged with your content. You can lose your fluency.
Yeah.
And everyone will read through that. Everyone will know that. Everyone will see, oh, your wording is great, but do you really know what you're talking about? Because AI may know what you're talking about. We want you to be the subject matter expert in the room, because otherwise we'll hire the AI. So, yes. So we need to maintain very cautious exercises. Anytime we speed up processes, we have to be careful about losing our fluency and our knowledge of what we're talking about.
I completely agree. I noticed even like tools like Grammarly, sometimes they'll suggest, a different paragraph. It's like, no, that's not exactly what I plotted. That's not my message. So it's good that you brought up the point that we need to be aware of what our intent.
Yeah, the underlying message. Because right now we're spending so much time contracting and expanding and make it look perfect.
Yeah.
And looking perfect on the surface may be correct. But you in a conversation like this, we need to know what we're talking about. Otherwise, it doesn't do any good.
Exactly. With your extensive experience in the industry, what are common challenges you come across in designing an innovative or an intelligent workplace? And what are some strategies to overcome these challenges?
Sure. One of the first ones, I guess, is managing expectations.
Yeah.
In a multi-purpose room, the clients are expecting, I don't want to define or restrict my use of this space. I want it to do everything. And so you have to kind of anticipate all of the choices of what they're going to do. And the next thing is that I don't want to have an operator operating the equipment. It should be smart enough to do whatever I need it to do and have no operator. That magic is not there yet. And I don't know if it ever will be, because the complexity of the room requires, and the versatility of the room requires some kind of interaction, some kind of ability to manually control the room. The difference would be like when you've got speed control in your car, and you still got to get out of your parking spot, down the side road, and then on the highway. Once you're on the highway, you can hit cruise control. But getting onto the highway requires some manual intervention. So what we need to be able to do is guide users into this understanding of what the expectations are. And the way we do that is by doing journey mapping, and we use personas. So for you, what we want to do is say, where are you? You're coming into the building, you're going to your office, then you're coming into this room. What are you doing in that space? And then the other person, maybe a different work job requirement, how are they coming into the space? What technology are they bringing? What are they using in the space? And it's kind of a matrix of requirements. And then you can just define what the functionality. And then what we want to do is say, choose three. Because although spaces are totally versatile, let's take the top three scenarios. Most people don't do that. They stop at saying, I'm going to put all this equipment in the room. But what they miss is saying, what's the user definition of how are they going to come into it when they use the space? So you can accurately redo and execute at least the top three. It can do the other things, but these are the three dominant requirements. And the reason why I bring that up is because back to the AI, what we're seeing is automatic tracking cameras, right? That can pick up our conversation. You have an operator over there now, but pretty soon that'll be AI picking this up, right? And the logic of when to switch cameras is now this in-between space. So you have audio, you've got video, and then some intelligent being. So the definition of what it's supposed to do, it has to be 100% accurate, right? We can't have that camera like floating off into space, right? It's got to stay on us the whole time, or it's got to switch. So it's got to do the right thing every single time. And yet it has to be defined. So the requirements all of a sudden become, how do you define the logic of this brain power that's tracking or moving? And people aren't doing that. They're not understanding that. Just like with audio, I have to set certain levels. I want the audio levels to be a certain volume above an ambient. We've got ambient and we've got microphones. We want it to be at a certain level above the ambient to capture the sound. These have been done for all of the video. We've got certain light levels, color levels, accuracy. You now need to do that to intelligence or the smartness that's in between of the glue, and say, what are the parameters? What are the measurable parameters so I can recreate and execute consistently?
Great. Very interesting topic. Definitely, I could sit here for hours to continue discussing it. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time to join us here on the podcast.
Thank you.
We wish you a great show.
It's been a great show. I'm learning a lot about the area. I'm keeping my eyes open and trying to understand further about the challenges and opportunities here in the Middle East. And I'm looking forward to future Integrate Emmys and having more people and more exciting manufacturers showing their products here.
Thank you.